Hello, freaky friends! Halloween is fast approaching, and today I am giving you my top horror recommendations for the spooky season. On this list, I've chosen a variety of age ranges and degrees of scary, so I'm hoping that there is something for everyone on this list, whether you are a hardened horror lover or somebody who is just dipping a toe into the horror genre for the first time. So the first book on my list is called Small Spaces by Katherine Arden, and this is a middle grade, but don't let that fool you because this one was surprisingly scary. It's about a young girl named Ollie, and Ollie finds this mysterious book about a woman, the two brothers that loved her, and a sinister deal that was made with a smiling man. Ollie goes on a school field trip to a local farm and quickly realizes that there is actually some truth behind what happened in the story. On the way back from the field trip, as night is falling, the bus breaks down and the very strange bus driver gives Ollie and her two friends two pieces of advice. The first is, best get moving. At nightfall, they'll come for the rest of you. And then the second is, avoid large spaces, stick to small. It was a very creepy, atmospheric read that ticked all of the Halloween checkboxes. There's a corn maze, there are like freaky scarecrows that like watch you, and then this super terrifying smiling man. I definitely recommend this one to anybody looking for an atmospheric Halloween read, and I think this one would be a good one for anybody looking to sort of get into the horror genre for the first time. It's scary, but it's not too scary. So the second book on my list is a young adult, and it's called Rules for Vanishing by Kate Alice Marshall. And this one was also one that surprised me at how terrifying it is. It's written in a faux documentary style, and it has sort of mixed media. So there are emails and text messages and interviews. It's about a teenager named Sarah, and Sarah's sister Becca has been missing for about a year. The police seem to think that she just ran off with some guy, but Sarah discovers Becca's journal and starts to realize that something much more sinister might have happened to her sister. In the journal, Becca is obsessed with this local legend of a young girl named Lucy Gallows who went missing long ago. She went missing in the forest, and legend has it that once a year a road appears in the forest, and if you follow it and follow all the rules, you will find Lucy Gallows at the end. So when Sarah receives a mysterious text message saying, play the game, she gathers her friends and goes to start this road, believing that she will find her sister at the end. This one was really haunting. The thing that was scariest about it is that the road has different gates and you have to follow the rules, otherwise bad things happen. And this book was definitely not afraid to give consequences for people who did not follow the rules. I will say that this one didn't have an ending that I particularly enjoyed, but given the fact that I haven't stopped thinking about this book, I think it is still worth picking up. This is definitely good for people who are looking for a really spooky read. It is fairly scary, so if you are nervous about horror, give it a try, but this one might be a little bit spooky for you. The next books on my list are all adult, but they do range in this sort of scare factor. The first one I wanted to recommend is called Odd Tales by Jonathan Face. And this is a book that I just sort of happened to come across on one of those websites where you can read books for free in return for a review. And I read it a few years ago, and I still think about it. I wouldn't call these stories like perfectly in the horror genre, but they all had a sort of theme of insanity, and they left me with a really sort of eerie, mildly disturbed feeling. So I think that they're really perfect for this time of year, and they're probably good for people who are just starting out in the horror genre. There are two stories out of 9 that particularly stuck out for me. The first one is called Traffic, and it's described as a troubled young couple on a cross-country road trip takes a wrong turn in the Nevada desert. And this one had like major Stephen King vibes. So if you like Stephen King, I think you'll really like this short story. And then the other one was called A Moment of Clarity and is described as an elderly man gets personalized messages in a fortune cookie. And wow, this one was really disturbing. Like, I still think about this one, and I think that if you're looking for a freaky read, this is a good book to pick up, and those 2 short stories in particular would be awesome. The next book on this list is called A House at the Bottom of a Lake by Josh Malerman. And this is one that I previously mentioned, but I love it so much that I thought I would mention it again. This book is about 2 teenagers who are on their first date, and they are canoeing on this lake when they look down and discover a 2-story house beneath them. Naturally, because you don't see that every day and they're kind of into each other, they return to the lake with scuba diving gear and start exploring the house over the summer. This is an incredibly atmospheric read and is perfect for people who love a haunted house story. What I think makes this story so good is that the most mundane items that you would find in a house become really spooky when they are in a house at the bottom of the lake. This book doesn't get a lot of love on Goodreads. Like, it has, I think, like a 3.24 or around there rating. And I think that's probably because of the ending. It's sort of a vague ending, which is very characteristic of Josh Malerman. But I think that if you love atmosphere and haunted houses, this is a perfect read to pick up this spooky season. The next book is definitely not for the faint of heart. It is called The Troop by Nick Cutter, and this one is all about the body horror. So if you don't like graphic scenes, definitely don't pick this one up. It's about a Boy Scout troop who goes camping on a local island, and on this island, this man shows up, and he's skinny, and there's just something not quite right about him, and he looks really ill, and he is ravenously hungry. So he's been infected by this like horrible creature that basically, once it's in you, it eats you from the inside out, and while it's doing it, you are like super hungry. So of course, the adults all die, and the children are left to survive and hopefully get off this island, but it's been quarantined. And so they're basically in a fight for survival as this horrible creature starts to pick them off one by one. I thought it was really phenomenal, super scary, and definitely had a Lord of the Flies, not Lord of the Rings, totally different vibe, Lord of the Flies vibe, where once the adults are gone, you sort of see what happens to the kids. Definitely pick it up if you love body horror and if you're looking for a super terrifying read this Halloween. The last 3 on my list are my favorite Stephen King books. And let's be honest, a horror recommendation list wouldn't be quite right without a Stephen King book on it. My favorite one is called It. And this one is like classic Stephen King. If you love the symbolism and Easter eggs that King puts in his universe, this one is a must read. It is set in Derry, Maine, and involves 7 kids who are known as the Losers Club as they fight this terrible evil that has come to town known as Pennywise the Clown. This book is a big one. It's like a big daddy, 1,000 pages, but is such a good read. It has such classic scenes, you know, like the scene where the kid's going into the dark basement without a flashlight. There's another scene that I loved with Bev Marsh, and she's in her bathroom and there's a voice coming out of the sink. I highly recommend this one. I think you'll love it. I will say that it does have one particular scene, and it's sort of famous for this scene. Nobody knows what Stephen King was thinking when he put it in there. I won't tell you what it is, but you definitely know it when you come across it. I will say, don't let that scene dissuade you from reading the book. If you get to it and you're uncomfortable with it, just skip past it because it really doesn't matter. Pick it up, you won't regret it. The next one that I absolutely loved is called The Long Walk. And this one is set in dystopian America, and it's definitely, less jump scare, like monster horror, and more a psychological horror. It is about a race. I think it happens annually, and it involves 100 young men, and the winner basically gets whatever his heart desires. So they all start out and they have to maintain a pace of 4 miles per hour. They get 3 warnings if they slow down, and after that, they are removed from the race, if you catch my drift. The thing that I loved about it is that it starts out, and these young boys, they're all so cocky, and they all think that, they have so much energy and that they'll, never stop walking. But the horror aspect of it is that their minds and their bodies start to fail them. So good, so scary, and definitely a good one for probably beginner horror enthusiasts and also people who just love a terrifying story. And then my last recommendation is an awesome short story collection by Stephen King called Night Shift. And this one has some serious classics in it. I have such a great memory of going camping with friends, and one of my friends was reading one of these stories around a campfire. Like, this is the type of book you bring camping. It has some really good stories. My favorite ones are called The Boogeyman. I'm just trying to find my list. My favorite stories are The Boogeyman, Children of the Corn, I Am the Doorway, and The Lawnmower Man. But all of them are such scary reads, and definitely good for people who maybe don't want to invest in a long book like It, which is 1,000 pages, but are just looking to sort of read a story at a time. Definitely pick it up. You will not regret it. And with that, that's the end of my horror recommendations list. I hope you found something that you would like to pick up. Please leave me a message in the comment section below letting me know what you're picking up this Halloween season and if you have any good horror recommendations for me. With that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.